Let's get to the news. There was a total solar eclipse today over North America, and just as his vision returned from the last one. Former President Trump compared himself in a Truth Social post over the weekend to the late South African President Nelson Mandela, and if there's anything Truth Social users hate, it's when you make them Google something. After the earthquake in New York last week, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said in a post on X, quote, "God is sending America strong signs to tell us to repent." Strong signs? It was a 4.8. If that's a sign, then the F train has been telling us to repent for years. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott on Friday launched a new talk show co-hosted with 4 other black Republicans. Sorry, with the 4 other black Republicans. While speaking at his Palm Beach fundraiser over the weekend, former President Trump complained that immigrants aren't coming to the U.S. from, quote, nice countries like Denmark, Switzerland, or Norway. And then way too late added, or Slovenia. Former President Trump attended a fundraiser over the weekend at the Palm Beach home of hedge fund billionaire John Paulson with former First Lady Melania Trump, where she finally got to meet an actual billionaire. Former President Trump has reportedly told people in private that he could end the war in Ukraine by pressuring the Ukrainians to give up territory to Russia. Ah, yes, the guy who still claims he won in 2020 wants someone else to give up. According to a new report, homeowners in Florida pay 5 times more for insurance than the national average, presumably because of the threat they face from hurricanes, flooding, sinkholes, and, of course, other Floridians. A comic book featuring the first appearance of Superman recently sold at auction for $6 million, while a comic book featuring the first appearance of Aquaman was used as scrap paper to write down the bid. And finally, a firefighter in Florida was arrested for indecent exposure after he allegedly exposed himself to a woman in a 7-Eleven store. The last thing that place needs is another weird-looking wiener. President Biden announced a plan yesterday to reduce student loan debt for 25 million borrowers, and in typical Democratic fashion, he did it during the eclipse. When are you going to announce universal health care? 11:59 on New Year's Eve? President Biden yesterday attacked former President Trump over his stance on abortion. To be fair, Trump's stance is always bad. He looks like he's being pushed by a ghost. That's right, President Biden attacked former President Trump over his stance on abortion, which Trump describes as don't ask, don't tell. After former President Trump said yesterday he does not support a national abortion ban, President Biden told supporters, quote, if they put one on his desk, he said he'd sign it. Yeah, but that's only because Trump is in permanent autograph mode. You could put a dead bird on his desk and he'd say, who should I make it out to? Lawyers for former President Trump filed an appeal yesterday to delay his hush money case and asked to move the trial out of Manhattan because of possible jury bias. You were president. The whole country has a bias. The only way you're getting a juror who doesn't know you is if it's randomly Tiffany. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hosted a group of donors over the weekend at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, where you can see Keith Richards' guitar, Bono's glasses, and Nancy Sinatra's boots. The New York Times published an article yesterday titled The Method Behind Trump's Mistruths. Mistruths? Why is it so hard for you guys to call him a liar? I'm not sure your own spelling bee would take mistruth. You can just say Trump lied about something and the world won't end. You don't have to say he engaged in a quasi-deceptive, part-factual utterance. Just say lie. You can do it. All right, I guess that's something, I guess. The Irish Parliament today confirmed the country's youngest ever new prime minister, so whoever wins here in November, they will be asking you for help with the Wi-Fi. Have you tried unplugging the router? It's off in the router. The fast food chain KFC announced yesterday will offer a new value menu, which includes a combo meal with 6 pieces of chicken, 4 sides, and 2 paddles. According to a new survey, half of Americans consider their car to be part of the family, while the other half do know what words mean. A defendant recently appeared in an Irish courtroom completely nude, I assume to prove to the court that he had suffered enough. That's right, a defendant recently appeared in an Irish courtroom completely nude. Luckily, the jury still had their eclipse glasses on. When asked in a new interview how he would like to be remembered, President Biden said, quote, "I hope my legacy is that I was honest, straightforward, and did what I said. In that case, I would say, don't fall off any more bikes." The Arizona Supreme Court ruled yesterday that a law from 1864 that criminalizes abortion is still enforceable. 1864? Was anybody even there yet? Was this their first law right after Don't Shoot the Piano Player? President Biden's former White House Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, said yesterday that Biden, quote, does 2 or 3 events a week where he's cutting a ribbon on a bridge. Yeah, he should really stop doing that because ribbons are like the only thing holding our bridges up. When asked in a new interview what he considered the primary threat to freedom and democracy at home, President Biden said, quote, Donald Trump, seriously. Dude, stop saying seriously. Nobody thinks you're joking. I didn't think you were going to say video games. Everyone knows Trump is the biggest threat to democracy. I do a whole show about it every night. A show you were on. Seriously. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yesterday criticized former President Trump's announcement that he does not support a national abortion ban and said, quote, he either is stupid or he thinks the rest of us are stupid. Oh, lady, it's both. That's like saying he's either guilty or he has bad lawyers. 2 things can be true. The utility company Con Edison announced this week that they accidentally spilled about 1,000 gallons of oil into the Bronx River, which severely polluted the oil. The NFL announced yesterday that players can choose from 12 new helmet designs next season. Unfortunately, some will get stuck with this one. Yeah! Off-season Jets burn. Consumer Reports yesterday called on the USDA to remove Lunchables from the National School Lunch Program and said they contain, quote, relatively high levels of lead, cadmium, and sodium. On the plus side, the students are getting a crash course on the periodic table. Oh, yeah, I had that today. I had a little bit of that. According to new estimates, Costco each month is selling as much as $200 million worth of gold bars. Well, I'm not surprised since you have to buy like 48 at a time. According to a new study, lesbians are more likely to climax during sex than heterosexual women. Aha! I knew it was her fault. And finally, authority. Can we go back to the picture? I like that. Whoever that person was when they took that picture did not know what joke it was going to be used for. And finally, authorities in Florida recently arrested a man after they allegedly found him sitting naked in a trash can on a public sidewalk. Even worse, there were children around. Unfortunately, that was our last one. Former President Trump visited a Chick-fil-A restaurant in Atlanta yesterday and, as usual, was the weirdest man alive.
This is good. You're making a lot of money. Everyone's getting rich, right?
No, they're not getting rich. They're working for $7.25 an hour. Do you think they own the company? That's like visiting an Amazon warehouse and saying, Amazon, that's a big brand. Which yacht did you take to work today? That's right, Trump visited a Chick-fil-A restaurant in Atlanta yesterday and praised the restaurant for being closed on Sundays, calling it, quote, the Lord's Chicken, which is also what he used to call Mike Pence. Former President Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday that during his criminal hush money trial next week, he will be, quote, forced to sit gagged before a highly conflicted and corrupt judge whose hatred for me has no bounds. So, just like dinner. Former President Trump attended a fundraiser last night hosted by an Orlando personal injury lawyer who gave Trump some really good fundraising ideas. I slipped at the Piggly Wiggly, folks. House Speaker Mike Johnson met one-on-one yesterday with Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene for 70 minutes. And whatever you think of Johnson, that is a long time to be stuck in a conversation with someone who's into CrossFit. The Alabama Secretary of State sent a letter to the Democratic Party this week warning that President Biden could be excluded from its ballot because the Democratic National Convention occurs after the filing deadline. Wow, there go Biden's chances of winning Alabama. In a new profile in The Atlantic, a former Republican lawmaker claimed that Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, quote, used to walk around the cloakroom showing people porno of him and his latest girlfriend. Gross. Who calls it porno? A metal detector enthusiast in Scotland recently found more than 50 ancient coins in a farmer's field. That's great for him. It's just a shame girlfriends aren't made of metal. Looks like it's metal detector week in New York. Bays wrote it. Bays is doubling down on the metal detector community, not me. I think you're heroes. Wasn't for them, those coins would still be in the field. The Bays over there. They find our artifacts, Bays. Krispy Kreme is now offering a Kit Kat Cookie Dream Donut, which features a cookie dough filling and cookie crumbles topped with milk chocolate and cookie dough icing. And if that sounds good to you, I hope this also sounds good to you. And finally, it was Dog Therapy Appreciation Day, said one patient. My mom was such a bitch. And that was a monologue